If you're on purpose, you're following your heart, you can't fail. You can't fail. Any kind of situation that shows up that may not be what you thought it was going to be, or it's not turning out the way I turned out, or I got stopped from doing something, that's God. And when you understand that, then you realize, oh, okay, it's not rejection, it's protection. Hello, everyone. Let's take just a moment to call on our ancestors, especially for the times we're living in, where you don't know what is left, what is right, what is up, and what is down. This is a time for us to accept that we are not little gods and goddesses walking on the earth. There really is a greater order and direction, and that we do have help from our non-physical beings. So let's call on those ancestors and ask them to keep us humble, to keep us open, to keep us healthy for the life that we are here to live, so that it can be joyous, fulfilling, happy, prosperous, and most importantly, the authentic life we're supposed to live. So I ask for all of this in the name of all that is holy, and I say, amen, ashe, I hope.
Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are so excited. My name is Crystal Thompson. I am the editor of Be Well magazine, and we are assembled here today to speak with one of our contributors, one of our amazing contributors, but we're gathered here because of the genius of Carmen Ray, who has put together the Be Well community for women at large, but has also geared us to create such an amazing magazine. And so I'm so excited to be here. I'm so very excited to be here. I would love to invite all of you who are watching to invite others to also consider joining us and joining this series, so that you take advantage of all of the powerful individuals and their messages that they have contributed to the magazine. Everyone, please allow me and welcome with me Ms. Jojopahmaria Nsoroma. Thank you so much for being here today.
Such a pleasure to be here, Crystal and Carmen. Such a pleasure.
Carmen and I are going to ask you several questions about who you are, about your contribution to Be Well magazine as a whole, but also about the spring issue of Be Well magazine, which is titled Go Bigger, Go Brighter, and Go Beyond. And you really did it with your article. You really put your foot in it. You gave us some amazing and valuable information that we can take with us. So we're just going to talk about exactly what makes you who you are, about your journey thus far, and about what's to come for you as well. Is that okay with you today?
Wow, that's great. Thank you.
All right, let's jump right into it. Tell us about who you are.
Wow, that's such a great question, because recently I have stepped into a new lifetime. And what that means is that I have cleared out some things from the past that were barriers to me moving forward into more of what I call my castles in the sky. And so who is Jojopahmaria? Today, I am a shamanic healer, influencer for change within the human services system, an influencer in change in regards to community, the way we can look at ourselves as human beings in community. I am a writer, a published author. I am a classical pianist. And I also love dancing the disco and bossa nova.
How awesome is that? Wow.
I love it. I love it. What an awesome introduction. Thank you so much for sharing this space with me today, Crystal and Jojopah. Well, let me just jump right into this whole mission of Be Well. Be Well in its entirety, along with our magazine. We have 3 pillars, Jojopah. We want people to be well connected, to be well informed, and to be well inspired. And you yourself has been such an example for me in my personal and my professional life, and really, really looking at purpose-driven entrepreneurship.
Yes.
So can you kind of talk a little bit about how has being a purpose-driven, free thinking, and I'll say free-spirited entrepreneur? You're such a creative genius, but since I've known you, which has been over 10 years now, I've always seen you step fully into your purpose and in your lane. And I got to share, when I first met you, I was in the thick of chaos and just trouble as it came to finding balance between entrepreneurship and employment. And I would just be in awe of like how all your needs were met. Not only did you have enough for yourself, but you somehow always had enough to give to other people. But I've never seen you punching a clock. I remember meeting you and how you would just hold your Mondays so sacred as your time to just work on yourself and your healing and helping others to heal. And that was just so powerful. And so you were really, really one of my first examples of what it looks like and what it feels like to be a purpose-driven entrepreneur, just really grounded in your purpose and not at all chasing the money of entrepreneurship, but understanding that your needs will be met. So talk to me a little bit about what that's like, just, continuing to be in that space. How did you get there?
Yeah, Carmen, thank you. We live in a culture that at the beginning of not the last century, the century before, so going from the 1800s into the 1900s, the steam engine had been invented. And this began to mechanize work for the first time. What does that mean? That means that people no longer have to stay on a farm. You could go into the city, work in a factory, and make more money, guaranteed, in that factory than you could work on the farm. Because the farm, there was no guarantee, right? If you get a drought or, the cold come too late or too early, you ain't getting your crops, you ain't getting your money. So this mechanization of work begins to make people feel like, okay, I got this, I can survive. Here's the thing that you had to sacrifice though. You have to sacrifice your humanity, because the factory demanded that you become a machine. And so what happens at the same time that things are being mechanized, the educational system is being formed. And the educational system, the formal educational system of Western culture, especially here in America, gets created by people like Henry Ford. And Henry Ford needed people in his factory. So in your factory, what do you need? You got to follow directions. When the bell rings, you got to move to the next job. Also, you're given a task to do that you have to do over and over and over, like precision, like a machine, in order for him to get out 1,000 Model T Fords in a day, right? So these captains of industry really, really influence not only how we worked, how we learned, but lifestyle. And so the lifestyle that we wake up into, for me, in the middle of the 20th century, is one where you got to go to college, you got to get your education, go to college so that you can survive. It becomes about that. So even education now is about survival. It's losing this, it's just about learning. The big thing that I learned, and I'm 40 years old when I learned this, which is about purpose. Because the machine, the matrix, we call it, mindset, leaves that out for children. It wants you to become part of, right, this mechanized economy for how people are going to survive and make money for these big companies. So if you're talking about your dreams, like, oh, I want to be a writer, I want to be a painter, your parent says to you, oh, child, you can't make no money like that. You need to go get your degree, be a lawyer, be a doctor. You're going to be okay, right? And so how I begin to escape that is through my grandmother and my mom, because they had a house and they worked very hard for us to have this house. And my grandmama told me, she said, child, you always can come home. And they never wanted me to be in a work situation where somebody was treating me bad or taking advantage of me. So, and then me being a fire person, Carmen, and being a fire person is, it don't take much for me to get really angry and say, oh, hell no. So I could do that in my career, and I could in school study what was in my heart, which was literature. And then you're like, what are you going to do with that, right? Because everybody I knew was becoming a social worker, a doctor, or a lawyer. So here I am in classes where you got maybe 3 or 4 people studying this very, seemingly meaningless information, Moby Dick and Edgar Allan Poe and George Bernard Shaw, right? I'm reading all this literature. So what are you going to do with it? So I start out being a teacher and very quickly realized that children were not being served by standardized tests. And I did not want to be colluding with that and participating in that. And so I was able, again, because I got this home I can go back to drop out from teaching very quickly and go into nonprofits. And nonprofits gave me sort of like a blank palette to paint on. I began to create programs for kids and communities very quickly and very easily in my career. And that kind of set me off on the direction that I've come to now, which is I needed to discover, how do we really help people? How do we really, support them? And so I was able to follow my heart. And in that following of my heart, because I knew, again, if I tried something that didn't work, I could go back home. I can still go back home, y'all. This is unheard of. But my sister has a family home. The door is always open. If I got into trouble, I can go home. When you know you have a place to go back to, you no longer have to prostitute yourself. And I mean that literally as well as emotionally and mentally. You no longer have to prostitute yourself in order to eat and have a place to sleep. And so even when I would get into those periods, Carmen, as an entrepreneur, I've been a consultant since the 90s. When I would get into a position where the money ain't flowing and that check didn't come, or I can no longer do this job because the project is over or the rug got pulled out, I would always stop and say, you can go home. You have an alternative. So what are you going to do? Let me get creative. And that's what you're talking about, Carmen, when you say that, you see me punching no clock, but like, how is she doing this? There's always a pot on the stove, always have my greens, right? Come on, y'all, let's have some greens, let's have some chicken, always have my chicken, And how do you do that? And you do that through, again, following your heart into your purpose, recognizing too, and this to me is the most important thing, I can't stress this enough, you have to have a God that is not a human. I'll say that again. You got to have a God who is not a human. In other words, it cannot be the bank. It cannot be your employer. It cannot be the company. It can't be your partner. You have to have a God that is bigger than you can imagine, bigger than your concept. And you have to form a connection to that God so that if you're on purpose, you're following your heart, you can't fail. You can't fail. Any kind of situation that shows up that may not be what you thought it was going to be, or it's not turning out the way I turned out, or I got stopped from doing something, that's God. And when you understand that, then you realize, oh, okay, it's not rejection, it's protection.
Woo, that's good.
I'm not supposed to go down that road. Oh, wait, I'm done with this. There's something else coming for me. I need to lay back.
Yes.
And that's what I did in 1999. I left a job where I was making more money than ever for a national organization, laid up on my balcony for 2 weeks, didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew I had at least 2 months of rent. So I said, I'll take 2 weeks off to go lay on my balcony and I'll figure it out. Yeah. And it got figured out because what I was doing in that time really was setting the stage for stepping into my spiritual path and in integrating spiritual intelligence and emotional intelligence into human services work. And in that process, what I learned was that sometimes we have to get still and drop out so that God can give us more of what we need. And that's when I got connected to my shamanic teacher. My nephew came and lived with me. You can't imagine, right? So he was helping out with the rent. I got a little consultant thing here and there. And then I realized that, okay, if I'm going to work with somebody, because I'll never work for somebody ever again, I have to value my gifts and my talents. I'm bringing you something. You ain't bringing me something. You just give me an opportunity to share my gifts and talents. So I'm working with you, not for you. And so I said, I want to work for somebody who can honor my spiritual intelligence and be open to having that in their organization. And the first place that happened was Public Allies. Yeah, when I worked with Paul Schmidt. And then the next place that it happens, of course, is with the Alma Center.
And that's where we met.
Yeah. Story to say, as you can see, it's a journey. Yes. It is a journey to staying in your power, on your purpose, in regards to your gifts and talents and genius, your work. The typical traditional mechanized way of working and going about career and building a business is really subjugated to, you've got to do what the machine wants you to do, what the matrix wants you to do. But if you notice, all of those billionaires, all of those people that really make the big money were people who did what they were called to do. And I take Apple as a big example. He was in college, he drops out and goes into his garage, comes out with the Apple computer. Change the world, change how people live and work and think about things, right? He didn't do that by going to college and following, that tread of survival. And again, he had parents, he had a home, he had a garage to go to. So that's the thing, is that if you have that foundation, if you don't have that foundation, Carmen, to me, the question becomes, how do you get it, right? And that's why I see networks like yours, like Be Well, can actually has the power ultimately to create that for people. So that if I'm an entrepreneur and I'm like, I got this dream, I know I can get this off the ground, but I just need like 4 months and 6 months to just focus and do my work. Your organization could be able to provide that for somebody. Wouldn't that be
Jojopahmaria,
oh my God.
Constantly.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I can see it. I can see it. Yes. But that's what it takes. You got to have, again, that foundation to know that you do not have to prostitute yourself, that you will be taken care of. Your basic needs will be taken care of. You eat, you sleep. That you have a connection to a greater order and direction, to your God. I don't care what you call it, Allah, Buddha, music, whatever, but that you work that relationship on a daily basis. And then I think the third thing is that you have to believe in yourself. Wow. And so sometimes we have to go in therapy in order to be able to do that. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Now, Jojopah, before I turn it over to Crystal for the next question, I just really want to create a teachable moment here for our listeners. The way that you explained what's necessary for us to really be our true, authentic selves on our entrepreneurial journey, and the way you gave meaning to home ownership. Like, to me, this is a message for everybody that's in that whole real estate, because I have this conversation all the time with my daughters because they're still young and they see themselves as I'm trying to get them into home ownership because I see the value of it. And it's more than just, in exchange for rent versus mortgage. It's more than that. It's about grounding yourself for something for your family and for people that you love. But you have given such meaning to why a person maybe want to look at home ownership. Is just amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that in-depth, so necessary description of how you were able to proceed on a very purpose-driven way. Thank you.
Wow, I am just in awe. I feel every piece of that. With you being so rich in information and so connected to self, how did you pull together your discussion regarding the theme "Go Bigger, Go Brighter, and Go Beyond"? How did you pull that together?
So this is great because I want to give an example about what a purpose-driven life, following your heart, listening to your heart, honoring your connection to your God is really about. I don't go looking for things. I really don't. I have a vision for my lifestyle, And it's not even about the things in it. It really is about how am I going to be feeling about myself and about other people. So I want to be feeling very much within peacefulness, love, kindness, openness, authenticity, flow. I want to be in my flow. You know, I want things flowing. And I want to be around people who can support me in that. So I avoid toxic people. I serve them, I can help them, but they're not in my inner circle because I need around me people who can really help me flow. So Carmen, give me a call. And I know when Carmen called, that's God knocking. And I might be tired and I'm all busied up. I can't take on one more thing. Why is she calling? And then I stop and say, okay, here's God. And so God called me through Carmen and said, you got to write an article. And so I looked at your theme and I get still and I open up, okay, God, what do you need coming through and out of me that's going to serve other people at this time? And because of COVID and the impact that it is having on our lives, because, you know, people crazy right now. What is this? We in April of 2021, it's been since March of 2020. And there's a lot of people right now who really crazy because it's been a lot. And there hasn't been enough figuring out how do we support the most vulnerable people, people for whom it's really challenging to be alone so much, to be isolated so much. We haven't figured that out enough. And so it's really hard time. And so I got to thinking about that, like the stress that is on people during this time and how easy it is to give away your power when you're in fear, when you're under stress. And so I decided, yeah, let me write about my experience. Because as you see in the article, it talks about how I'm making more money now than I was making before March of 2020. And how did that happen? And again, it happened out of the things I just talked about, my connection to God. I got a hit. You need to help that organization. And again, I was in a situation where this having a foundation continues in my life. And so I was living with a woman who adopted me like her child, you know, and I adopted her like my mama. And she happened to be here in beautiful Santa Monica, which I love. And I was supporting her to stay in her independence in the last years of her life. And in return for that, she let me do what I needed to do to write my book and do my work. And so when COVID hits, I was in a position where I could just open up and say, I want to serve, I want to be of help with this organization, not worrying about how I was going to get paid. And it was interesting. It did lead to getting paid. And it also was some other organizations that reached out to me. And all of a sudden, this money flow shows up. And again, it wasn't like I was in fear, right? I wasn't in survival mode. I was just on purpose. How do I help? And so again, I was following my heart. I wasn't following the money. And again, you know, to get to this level of consciousness that I exist in, it is a journey. I have had the experience of being a nomad. And there was a time when I would drive between New York, where my family home is, and back to Milwaukee, where I spent so many years. And I can remember, and this is before cell phones. And I had a car that had over 500,000 miles on it. And I got maybe $100 in my pocket. I don't even know if I had a bank account at that point. Or I always had a bank account, even if it was just $20 in it. So I did have a bank account, but that's probably what it had, like $20. I got $100 in my pocket. I got to get from New York to Milwaukee, right? What do? And the fear come over you and you just a mess. Like, I can't do this. What can I do? I'm behind the steering wheel. I'm just crying and crying. Then I remember, let me call on my ancestors. Ancestors, help me, help me, help me. And they show right up and say, okay, put your head up. Okay, put your hands on the wheel. Okay. All right, turn the car on. Okay, put your foot on the gas. I got it. Now just drive. Just go straight. You know the bridge you're headed toward. Just go head toward the bridge. Okay. So you're snotting and crying and you driving. Within a half an hour, as I'm driving down the New Jersey Turnpike, got my music blasting, was probably listening to Whitney Houston at that point. And I realized, oh my God, I'm free. I am free. I can come and go as I want. I can do what I want. I got friends in Milwaukee. They'll give me a bed to sleep in. They know me. What am I worried about? And you flip it. You flip it, but you work for that. You work for that because you're going to go through that fear. You're going to feel like I'm going to die. The car's going to break down. The boogeyman going to get me. You know, you go into that. But then you get this opportunity through faith to flip up into a perception of what is really going on. Now, it can be this, we're going to die, we're not going to eat, we're going to starve, or I'm free. I'm free. Wow, I have this opportunity to do what my ancestors couldn't do. They couldn't just, as a female, just jump in a car and drive across the country without real stuff showing up, right? I get to do this. Stop at McDonald's, get my little Happy Meal, you know. I'm good to go for a 10-hour drive. And so, you know, again, like I said, you have to work for it. It's not an intellectual exercise. It's not something that somebody can tell you and, okay, I got this. You have to take the risk, have yourself be in the experience of where you are sitting up without a dime. And, you know, Iyanla Vanzant talk about this. That other sister, I forget her name right now, but she talked about this, where you in that situation where you don't know what to do. You can't imagine what can happen that can get you out of this, but you start to go into that prayer. And prayer is not for God. Because if you really believe in a God that's not a human or a company, you understand the power of the universe is what God is. And so when you call on that energy, miracles happen, things show up. But you got to go through that pain, because every time you get into that fear, you're healing something. And for those of us who are African American or part of the African diaspora that has ancestry in the slave trade, we have this post-traumatic slave syndrome. That's a real thing. Read Joy DeGruy. She got many videos online, Joy DeGruy, and she'll talk about the fact that there's something in us that has us believing we can't win. We can't have it. And so, especially this generation of people who are alive, our job is to break through that belief system, break through that perception. Oprah is not an anomaly, y'all. I'll say that again. Oprah is not an anomaly. Oprah is all of us, because what Oprah went through, all of us have gone through in some way, shape, or form. And so we need to understand that we have that type of power within us. Because here's the difference between me and Oprah right now. Oprah decided she was going to be a billionaire. I haven't decided that. I'm just like I said, I'm going to be joyous, happy, flowing, kind of, you know. But Oprah made the decision. She wanted to be really rich. And so that's what's happened. So we need to remember that, you know, about the journey, the process of becoming what it is that we really want to be. And I say to everybody, start off though, what will make you really happy? Because the money can't make you happy. You know, you can't follow the money to happiness. You can follow your heart to happiness. So what is it that your heart needs? And when you figure that out, then you're good to go. And so again, back all along way saying that that's what my article was really about, to give people hope and inspire them to really learn that it's about growing your self-awareness, growing your level of consciousness, so that even during a depression, you can still have income streams coming in, because you will be serving, you will be in service. Yeah. Ashe.
Wow, thank you. Thank you for that. And you definitely gave the readers that type of hope and that type of direction. So I really appreciate that.
Wonderful.
Great pleasure.
I love it, love it, love it. Now, Jojopah, in this season of my entrepreneurial journey, I've always been a big believer. I've been blessed with some amazing, amazing examples of what it looks like to be a successful entrepreneur. But out of all of the experiences and examples that I've had, how to do it, how not to do it, I know the importance of mentorship. And so many times I see as adults that people are not as willing to be submissive to mentorship. Once you identify that person that's worthy of mentoring you. So can you speak a little bit about the importance of role models and mentors on our entrepreneurial journey? And if you can reference, who are some of the examples of people that you've looked up to that's been successful in helping you to be such an amazing mentor to me and so many others that I know that you've supported?
That's a great question. Great question, Carmen. And I think it's really, really important for people to understand it is okay to need help. So needing help means, yes, I have to be vulnerable. I have to open up. And a lot of times we go into entrepreneurship like, I got this. I don't need anybody. I got to figure it out. I got my plan. You know, none of us can do it alone. So you definitely need support. So that's the first thing, because once you believe that, you open yourself to that, then the teacher shows up, then the guide shows up for you. You know, when you ask me that about mentors, 3 of them come to mind. The first one is a wonderful human being by the name of Peter Scales, Dr. Peter Scales, who I met early on working with Planned Parenthood. I missed working with him by like 3 months. Oh man, it would have been so great to work with him because he was so genius and so ahead of the curve in understanding adolescent growth and development, but also he just loved the children. I mean, he got it. And so he, you know, just inspired me with something that I use all the time now, which is that to really help children say yes to these 4 questions every day. Am I capable? Do I belong? Am I loved? Am I loving? And when you can help children answer yes to that, then you're doing your job. And think about that, because then that puts that whole realm of adolescent development and support into a whole different level, right? It's no longer about the standardized tests. It's about how do I help them learn the truth of who they are, learn their purpose. So that was one. Another is Dr. Michael Carrera, again, another genius in adolescent development out of New York. And Michael really created a program that went beyond, it's just about contraception for kids. It's about giving them a vision for their future and helping them actually get to that. So he would do these things like take them to a tennis club where they got to be in that environment and know, well, yeah, this is okay. I could do this. You know, so it was exposure. He did a lot of exposure along with some basic things with education and health stuff. But what I loved is that he helped the children and the families believe that they were better than how they were being treated by the human services system. Because, you know, in human services, you've got to declare yourself a failure, you've got to declare yourself if there's something wrong with me. And Michael taught me, and the parents and kids that he worked with, they taught me how to turn that belief system around. And now there's this whole thing about community as expert, you know, client as expert, you know, that kind of thing. And then probably the third one is Malidoma Somé, who's my shamanic healing teacher from West Africa, reconnecting me back to my African heritage in such a beautiful and visceral and powerful way, so that my ability to understand myself as coming from Africa and the meaning of that, because despite everything that we're carrying that is so deficit as a result of slavery, we forget that before slavery, we weren't like that. You know, male-female relationships were very loving and supportive and different, you know, you in the community. And so, right, we have this whole thousands of years long heritage that we got blocked from getting access to. And so for the work that I do in my life, I needed all 3 of those men to show up and infuse me with these parts of information, ideas, and understanding, so that when I show up, as an entrepreneur. And I think it's one of the pieces for why I am so successful. I have information that not everybody gets access to. So right away, I'm valuable because I know something you don't know, right? When you want to consult, you want somebody to know something that you don't know. I want somebody who knows what I already know. And so that to me is the most important piece about having a really good mentor. And it's got to be somebody that stretches you, okay? Mm-hmm. It's got to be somebody that has access to information, ideas, people, and places that you don't have access to. Because to be a successful entrepreneur, you have to grow. You have to keep growing yourself. Warren Buffett says it beautifully. They asked him, so Warren, and for people who don't know, Warren Buffett is, I still think he's the richest man in the world, because he done gave all his money over to the what's his name guy? Oh God, I forget his name. Microsoft guy. He gave all his money away to him and his wife to do this foundation, right? But then he's still making all this money because Warren Buffett done figured out the stock market, right? Mm-hmm. But Warren said, they asked him, so how do you do this? What do you do? And Warren said, I spend 80% of my time reading newspapers, magazines. I go online. I spend 20% of my time playing the stock market and moving that stuff around and talking with my partner and this and that. Wow. And people were blown away. Wow. But Warren trying to tell you, if you want to be successful, you have to keep growing and stretching and learning. And that's what a mentor will do. And I think the other important thing about a mentor, Carmen, is, a lot of times we walk around in fear very unconsciously. And it becomes a part of our lifestyle and our routine. We're not even aware of it. And we begin to make decisions off of it. And so when you have someone who's mentoring you, their job, an important part of their job, is to give you that feedback. And, I do that for you a lot at times, yes, right? I just hear your voice. Okay, Carmen, what's going on?
Yeah.
What's happening, girl?
Yes. Yes.
Carmen,
yes.
I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you on that edge. What's going on here?
Yes.
What's going down? Mm-hmm. And, and it makes a difference, right? Because then you can shift up the perception away from I'm going to die. I don't know what I'm going to do, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
And then what some other mentors I have too in life that have done for me is they've helped me not be afraid. And that is where they have given me money that I never have to pay back. They have given me an opportunity, opened a door for me, introduced me to someone, all of that. So I'd say, yes, definitely. You need a mentor. You need a coach at times. Like I said, sometimes we need to go into therapy if we're feeling blocked. If we keep hitting the wall in the same way over and over and over again, that's a sign there's something going on inside of you that your mind, your ego can't get at, and you need help to pull that up and heal it, transform it. And there's nothing ever wrong with doing that. So I can't stress that enough. Yeah.
Wow. That is, you are really giving us some great nuggets here. And you shared a great deal. I wanted people during this interview to be able to get some examples. And I think you've given some great ones, but if there's anything else you can add to the ideal of an area, in a particular area in which you struggled, and maybe you questioned yourself about your path, and what did you do to overcome it?
That's a really good one. And, one of the ways in which I struggled is when you step out as an influencer and an innovator and a pioneer, because we're human beings, the first thing you're going to worry about is, will I belong? Who do I lose? Who will no longer want to talk to me? Who will be afraid of me? What can't I do? So we go right into what am I going to lose? And it's painful. I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, there are still some people in my life that I love, but that I can't connect with in the way that I did before I stepped into I'm Jojopah. And that's okay, because again, I just trust my God so much that rejection is protection. And that's for the other person too, because the last thing I want is to be in a place where I'm making somebody feel like there's something less about themselves or there's something wrong with them because they're not who I am or doing what I'm doing, So I do honor all of that. And what helps me, number one, is to really be okay with being conscious that I'm in pain. That's number one. To not go into that, that don't bother. I ain't worried about that. No, it's painful. It's painful. And to think that people are going to judge you. Carmen, that's one of the reasons I stayed off of YouTube. I stayed off of YouTube, girl, for what, 5 years of doing my radio show? Until God, through Carmen, called me up and said, Jojopah, people need to see your face. I'm like, again, so that whole fear of I'm going to be rejected, people are going to talk about me, the boogeyman going to show up, a very common fear space for me, anxiety space. And so to get through that, first of all, is to acknowledge it, to know that that's happening, and then to ask for help. I never try to figure anything out without first getting still and doing a prayer. And a prayer to me is hearing myself, humble myself, and open myself to receiving the help that I need. So God, enable me to let go of this fear so that I can become that which you and I both know I'm supposed to be. And to me, that practice, along with, then I'll get an idea, like talk to this person or look at this person, and watch this person, to give me some support and guidance. Like with the video, I went online and I found some people talking about, what's the video camera that you can get that will give you good quality for cheap, and all that stuff. You do your research. But it really starts with having to face the fear and work to transform it. And because I am a shamanic healer, I do have these ancient African practices that I also do that support me in shifting up my mind and going into a higher level of belief about, it's okay, I can do this. This is going to be all right. So again, I just really encourage people to have that combination of, you need some intellectual material and you need some book knowledge and some video knowledge and whatever, stuff you find through Google, but you also need your faith practice. And it's a discipline, meaning it's something you have to do over and over and over again and keep growing it, and know what your process is. Because everybody's process is going to be different. I don't expect anybody should be, doing exactly what I do, but I am just encouraging you, make sure you have some form of a spiritual intelligence, a spiritual practice that you go to that will support you in breaking through whatever barriers show up to you becoming the best entrepreneur, the most successful entrepreneur that you can be.
Love it. Thank you for sharing that.
As I'm listening to you talk about mentorship, the word humility is something that really strikes a chord. And I appreciate you speaking on it the way that you did, because I believe that there's a lot of people in our Be Well community that know the definition of humility, but may not really understand how to harness that. And so I also believe the same thing about goal setting. And so I wanted to ask you, Jojopah, I want to ask you about what motivates you. You've talked about many things that have, given you the drive to do what you're doing. But I wonder if there are specific people or spaces that you are, trying to attain that will motivate you to go bigger and go brighter? Is there something a specific goal that you're striving for that is going to motivate you to go bigger and go brighter? And if you could just give an example of how you might be planning to go brighter. I think many of us, when we think about goal setting, I like to use the word, we want to be better. But tell me what comes to your mind when you talk about being a better in the future.
That's a really great question, Crystal. You know, and I love it because, like I said, I really consciously have stepped into a new lifetime. And so my vision is forming of what and where and how I want my life to be, and what's coming to me. So the bigger for me, again, always starts with my relationship to myself. I've come through, you know, incest, sexual abuse. I've come through having surgery to what's a hysterectomy when I was like 34 years old. I was a baby. I've come through loss of my family members through chronic diseases of diabetes and cancer, all through my 30s into the 40s. So, you know, I've come through a lot of stuff, and really lived in a very powerfully debilitating victim consciousness for a very long time. And part of the lifetime I just stepped out of was healing all of that, moving beyond being victimized by life, by people, by circumstance. And so now that I'm no longer a victim to life, now that I'm able to integrate all of those trauma and painful experiences into who I am, and to really get that treasure, I'm ready to live that. I'm ready to live the treasure of everything that I've been through. How does that inform my decisions? How does that inform my experiences that are coming? And so one of the things in this new lifetime, one of the things I'm aspiring to has to do with a lifestyle where I get to do things that I've been dreaming about. So for example, I love Wagnerian opera. My mama taught me it. Again, something like not a lot of people know about, right, and stuff. So anyway, there's this town in Eastern Germany where Richard Wagner built his theater, and it's a big thing to go to this Wagner festival and get to see these plays in the theater that he built. And it's a big to do, you know, real fa-fa shi-shi. But I have a dream of doing that. I wanted to go with my mother. So my nephew said that he would go with me. And so I'm planning that. I want to take a Viking river cruise down the Danube. Really important to me to do that. And I want to, you know, again, travel to some other place. I haven't been to Africa yet. I want to do that. I have some ritual work I want to do in Africa. I think we need to do grief work on Gore Island to honor those ancestors. So there's that kind of thing, right? Where I want to get myself to these places that I've been dreaming and thinking about. And the time is now to do that. So work-wise, which is interesting, for my work, I want to be able to get more of a balance between I do my work, but I also carve out time to do these other experiences, take on these adventures that I want to do. And so I see my work now being working smarter, not harder. And it comes out of me valuing the fact that I really do have access to information, to ideas, to things that people do want to know about and to access. And so taking that and then opening up to, okay, is it a bigger audience that I'm supposed to get access to? Are there more books? I say yes, there's definitely more books. You know, and so opening myself, Crystal, to the journey now, going larger, going bigger. I live in one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in the world, really. Santa Monica is the bedroom community of Hollywood. And there's just some beautiful real estate here, beautiful property. I'm only 11 blocks from the Pacific Ocean. Why am I here, right? You last year had maybe a dime in my pocket, right? And I think one of the reasons God has brought me here is for me to know that, yes, you are supposed to be here because one of these mansions is where you're going to set up what I call the Nsoroma Home West. And my dream is to bring out some of the men and their sons that I work with through the Alma Center so that they can come and get access, like Michael Carrera taught me, to this community, to this experience, to know that there's more outside of 12th and Valit. And, and again, just promoting that, being that example. I'd like to see many, many, many people be doing this around the world, like really sharing the wealth, sharing access to the wealth so that people get inspired that they can have a better quality of life. They don't have to stay suffering and struggling. So that's where I'm headed. It's not, I think who inspires me. I'm definitely inspired by Michelle Obama and Barack, because I think they figured out how to step into celebrity, but at the same, and use it, step into celebrity and really use it for promoting human growth and development. And that really, really juices me. That really inspires me. So then it's not just about making money, it's about making money for a purpose. So that's my dream.
I love it. I love it. Wonderful, wonderful. Well, Jojopah, we're going to close out with our closing question. And just what does Be Well mean to you, and how is the Be Well community impacting you and your work?
Wow, that's so great. First of all, Carmen, I definitely experience you as a mentor for me, because you always come and say, come on, Jojopah, I need you to do this. Come on, Jojopah, I need you to do that. When I'm just like, not even thinking, like, well, do they really want to hear this? Can this hold people's attention? That kind of thing. And you're so great at doing that. So that's the first thing, is that the Be Well community has been for me a proving ground, an opportunity to take, what usually my audience, right, is people in need in human services, especially the men from the Alma Center and other organizations. And you said, no, there are more people that need to hear this information and get access to what you do. And so the Be Well community has been that foray for me, that opportunity to learn that, to realize that, oh, okay, there is wider audience. The Be Well community really also inspires me, because I really do believe in the power of community to change things, to influence things, to heal things. And so the fact that you're able to keep that community, up and going, and to continue to grow it and evolve it, is just really very, very quite wonderful. And so I feel very much a part of the community. That's so wonderful to have in doing this work, and especially my foray into, YouTube. It's the Be Well, besides my, my Wisdom Walk page and my Wisdom Walk community, but you're the third one I click on to share whatever I've got doing, and knowing that it's going to get out to a nice audience of people. And so, that's a incredible service for a YouTuber to have, to have communities of people that you can click to and go to. So I really, really, really love your community that you've established that I feel very much, again, a part of. Yes. And I just know that it's going to continue to grow and evolve because it's so needed. Like we were talking about before in terms of mentors and stuff, you can't do this alone, and you're not supposed to. Right. You know, Warren Buffett had help, you know, all these folks have had good help. Oprah had lots of help. She had lots of mentors, people who saw her and opened up doors for her, you know, and continue to do that. She hanging out with Deepak Chopra, you know. Yeah. And so it's just like, yes. We need to just realize that. And I think, again, being a part of a community like this and supporting it, both with information sharing, with knowledge sharing, and financially. You know, I'm looking forward to that, Carmen, because I think that would be really great. We'd get you doing more stuff if we can free you up to just have the supporting and growing this community as your job. And so I think that, I'm really excited. I'm really excited for where the community is. I'm committed to being with the community forever. And I'm just, you know, I can't say enough about how wonderful it is. And again, thank you and Crystal and Mike for inviting me to write that article and for bringing me here today to share more about who and what I am, so that if there are people out there that, you know, I can be of service to, then I get connected to them. So I'm really, really grateful. Very grateful.
I am so grateful for you, Jojopah. And how can our listeners and our Be Well magazine readers connect directly with you?
Yeah, probably the easiest ways are, one is my Facebook community, which is Wisdom Walk Community on Facebook. You can always hit me up there. Another good way is my website. It's www.wisdomwalk2selfmastery, all one word, .com. You can subscribe to it, so you'll always get the videos that I put out automatically. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel, Wisdom Walk to Self-Mastery. I try to keep it all in alignment with the book. Ta-da! And the other way is, I don't get on Facebook. I get on Facebook once a week. I don't get on it daily. So if somebody did reach out to me in Messenger, it might take a minute before I got back, but email really, really works well for me. And I do check it. And it's Nsoroma home, all one word, @gmail.com.
And of course, you can definitely read Jojopah's article in Be Well magazine. And thank you so much, Crystal, for just leading this publication and being just such an important part of the Be Well movement and helping us support entrepreneurs as they navigate their way through entrepreneurship. Thank you so much for joining us, and everybody enjoy the rest of your day, and remember to be well.